live. Hey, welcome to another episode of my Rock Fantasy Files. Another special show tonight about a band. What I can say, I don't know what I can say about this band and the gentleman that we're remembering tonight on the first anniversary of his death. As a teenager in the 70s, I was into Aerosmith, the Black Sabbath, Zeppelin, Purple, Blister Cult, Nugent, Kiss, and all the sort. But one of my friends let me borrow All the World's a Stage a little bit later into it than some people did. It was probably like 1976, 77, and from there I purchased the Farewell to Kings and 2112 on 8-track and just went from there. And I'm glad I've got some special guests tonight. I've got John McEntee, who's a regular on the files from Incantation. I got Matt Byrne, who's been on the show before over the summer. Of course, drummer, Hatebreed. I got Lou Caldarola.
Caldarola.
All right. You can introduce yourself because I screwed it up.
Local session drummer. Know a lot of progressive rock stuff that I've done with Soundscape and play with Limelight. One of the longest running, or actually I think right now the longest running Rush tribute going.
And I've seen them, and you very great time to go and a good time to. And I was laid up after my accident and used to see you guys play a lot at Brian's Barbecue in town. And that was a big deal for me, just finally getting out and seeing a band. And you guys made that a lot brighter. So
much appreciated.
Coming on tonight on the first time we're on the show. And Will Carroll, one of our regulars from Death Angel drums, and Peter Pardo from the Sea of Tranquility. And of course, I'm a regular on one of his shows on Monday nights called the Hudson Valley Squares, which has been a ton of fun. And I'm glad Pete joined us tonight. And we got a special guest, first time ever on the show, Paul. You can pronounce your last name, from Cannibal Corpse, drummer, and he's been to my store like 20 years ago. I'm a big fan.
Mazurkiewicz.
Matt knows.
So I guess we'll start off with I'm going to go my corner to my first person on the list is John McEntee. Let's talk about Rush. What do you want to talk about tonight?
Basically when I was about old enough to really get into Rush, I really wasn't that into it at first. It was a little too much for me as a kid because I was about probably 10 when like Moving Pictures came out, and that's really when I first heard them. And I thought it was good and stuff, but then after that they started getting a little more with the keyboards and stuff, going a little more 80s, and I kind of just didn't really pay attention. At that time I was getting more into the Sabbath and Iron Maiden, Judas Priest kind of stuff. So it wasn't until somewhere around probably 1990 when Presto came out. And surprisingly, that one really resonated with me a lot. I thought that was a great album. And most people actually don't like it as Rush fans. They think it's like too mellow or something. But for me, I was like, I still was like hearing the guitar and stuff. I just like hearing I guess I'm a guitar player. I like hearing the guitar and the stuff. But I thought that's when I really got into it. And then I started going back and hearing some of the other stuff, Hemispheres and Farewell to Kings. And I was like, holy crap. This stuff is just amazing. I mean, especially because I was playing myself and learning about how to be in bands and all that kind of stuff. So it really, really kicked my butt. But so I'm kind of, I guess, a late bloomer for my age for Rush, But for me, probably the album that I like the most is probably Farewell to Kings. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, really, they have a bunch of albums that are just so good. It's out of control. But Farewell to Kings is really, really probably my favorite. And off that, I really like the Cygnus X1. It's just such an amazing progressive song. I mean, and I'm not Mr. Progressive really, but that song is so good, and the moods in that, and just the, drum playing and everything on that is just amazing. I mean, it's top notch. It's almost, for me, it's almost like the perfect Rush song. I mean, I know it's a longer song, but it's so amazing. So for me, I just pick that song, and I just love everything about it. I can't even pick any particular thing about it. I mean, really, that whole album rules, though. I mean, the whole album was just out of control, So
cool, man. Matt Byrne from the mighty Hatebreed, brand new album, doing pretty well this year, but right? And
Yeah.
what's your Rush thoughts tonight? You got some songs or concert, or we're going around a couple times, so whatever you want to pick up on.
I got songs. I got albums. I remember like memorable times in my life when I was turned on to different chapters of Rush, and by the people that turned me on to them. I remember I was like in 6th or 7th grade, had a friend in the neighborhood. He had an older brother, and he was the guy that would get stoned in his room and crank Aerosmith and Rush and stuff. And we were like, what's going on in there? And it was a type of, like, we had beanbag chairs, right? So there's beanbag chairs all over the place, getting high as hell. And I mean, I wasn't, but they were. And they're like, get in here, sit in the beanbag chair and just like sink in and hear all the textures of the music, like that type of vibe, right? Getting turned on to tunes by like older kids or cousins or whatever in your life. So that was like my first exposure to it. And I think it was like Tom Sawyer, of course. But as I found out about the band and I kind of started exploring and getting into things myself, the early stuff, one of the songs that sticks out, and I mean, I guess I don't know what would be, I mean, of course we know Tom Sawyer and stuff like that, but there's the deep cuts like Lakeside Park off Caress of Steel.
I love that song.
Oh man, what a great tune. And what I loved about it was like the perfect, it painted a perfect picture of, Lou, you can attest to this, Hudson Valley. Like think about spots around the Hudson Valley, like Bowdoin Park or something.
Yeah.
Lakeside Park. The lyrics like painted this great picture of like a place that's really just down the road, and the melodies and stuff, of course. And it was just it's one of the first bands I think that I listened to at that young age, where I was like, getting lost in the lyrics, because usually I'm more of a music guy, but this was a band where I actually got lost in the lyrics too, because it was painting such a picture that I could relate to, because it's stuff I grew up around. So, song-wise, that was one of the picks that I picked for this Lakeside Park for this discussion.
Cool.
And that album too, like Bastille Day. I mean, that was just a rocking album. And I think, John, you said like, yeah, that was like pre-keyboards, which is still great. Same with Van Halen. Like there's pre-keyboard Van Halen and then post-keyboard. Same with Rush. This was like pre-keyboard. It was rocking, but that was still a lighter song with a lot of melody, and it just painted this great picture.
Cool. I guess on my list here, Lou is up next.
Oh, all right. I will. I'll kind of do the same route there as like my exposure to them, and then go from like the songs and how it got going. Being a younger guy, playing some drums. Of course, I wasn't really into the progressive stuff too as well. I came into them about probably around what would have been Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, through some friends. At that time I was into The Who, Kiss, Aerosmith, Iron Maiden. That's what I was listening to then. And some buddies of mine in school were like, "Oh, Lou, you play drums. Here's this an album called Moving Pictures. Listen to the song Tom Sawyer." And it was that was like that kind of moment, like, oh my God, drums can be that, like almost like a lead instrument. People say, oh, Keith Moon was a lead player, but this was done in such a different way with such precision. And I'd never heard a drummer approach a kit like that. I was a fan of Kansas and like the prog stuff there and the complicated music, but that was just kind of opened my eyes to something different. Ran home, said to my folks, I need to get some Rush. And my folks came home a couple of weeks later with All the World's a Stage. And that was, that is same, you guys mentioning the whole pre-keyboards thing. I would have to say the same. I love, I'm a Rush geek. I love all eras of Rush, but Caress of Steel, 2112, Hemispheres, Farewell, and All the World's a Stage album. I mean, that's still, All the World's a Stage album would probably be on my, if you have to live on a desert island with a couple albums, that's probably going to be one of them. Yeah. Songs? Oh, that's a tough one. That's hard to narrow down, but I guess if I had to really be like, okay, Lou, gun to your head, song, La Villa Strangiato, because it kind of covers all of it, I guess.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome.
So we'll come back to you in a little bit. You can think up a couple more things, and I'm going to go over to, actually, we're going to go to Paul next, since he's brand new to the show. We don't want to make you wait to go last on this one.
Oh, no, oh, that's all right. I'm getting used to the old, doing something like this. I've obviously never done, so it's very
Okay.
cool.
Well,
So I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you for
But,
giving us your time tonight.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I know. I mean, what an amazing topic we're talking about here, right? I guess I was probably around, maybe about 12 years old when I got introduced to Rush from my cousin, who is actually a drummer as well, kind of the guy that got me into playing drums back in the day. And I was turned on to 2112. That was my first exposure to Rush. And what exposure that is, hearing Overture and the song 2112 in general, but just when you hear Overture for the first time, and it's just like, what is going on here? I was listening to bands like Kiss and Cheap Trick, and nothing that intense, I guess, at that time. So hearing 2112 and Overture into the Temple of Syrinx, I mean, that was just mind blowing to me, and that whole album is just phenomenal, I think. I remember I heard that, and I guess it was probably soon after. I probably heard it when I was around 12, so it was about 80. It wasn't like the album just came out. So I remember Permanent Waves just coming out just at that time as well, and then being turned on to Permanent Waves, which that's what an amazing album that is as well. I mean, the songs, of course, Spirit of Radio, Free Will. I mean, the whole album is just phenomenal, and Neil's drumming on all that. I mean, he's just on everything Rush has done. I mean, just what a tasteful drummer. Knew when to be busy, knew when to lay back, and all that. But those two albums were really huge for me. But then as I got a little older, and I really was able to delve then more into the catalog, I think my favorite album is Fly By Night, actually. I think that is my favorite Rush album. I mean, it's just pure and utter rock, just solid rock and roll, before the keyboards. They're just going for it. And the song Anthem, of course, what a great song, what great drumming. And then, Best I Can, and even a song like Making Memories, I mean, what an amazing album. And By Torn the Snow Dog. That's my favorite Rush album by far, and it's tough to pick one, of course, there's the whole catalog is great, but and then seeing them, I think for the very first time was amazing. I got to see them on the Signals tour. I was fortunate to get that, at least the tail end there. I wish I would have seen them back then in the day, like, on a 2112 or, Moving Pictures or something like that. But at least I got to see them on the Signals tour, and, never forget those experiences. I mean, just so powerful, so, so meaningful. So cool. What an amazing band. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, Pete, I'm going to make you go last because I went last on your show for the last 2 weeks. Will Carroll, Death Angel. Let's go.
The first time I discovered Rush was, remember those Chew Bop albums, those little miniature records that came with a bubblegum record?
I do.
Remember those things?
Yeah.
It was a Chew Bop for Permanent Waves. And so I liked it already because it had a half-naked girl on the cover. So I was like, oh, these guys are good, And I was expecting a party band because they had a girl showing her panties on the cover. I was like, oh, it's like a Van Halen type of band or something. But so I was kind of thrown a curveball when I first heard them. And I didn't really get into them until in my late teens as well. I was kind of a latecomer to the game. But Ted Aguilar from Death Angel, his older brother, Rob, was a big Rush fan, and he would play Rush all the time, and I just got into it. And then a few years later, I saw the Counterparts tour. That was my first show with the Melvins opening, man, at the Cow Palace in San Francisco.
Wow.
That was a weird bill, man.
Yeah.
And I was actually more into the Melvins. I mean, I was familiar with the Melvins more than Rush, kind of. But at that Counterparts show, just seeing them live was that was it. I was down the rabbit hole. They sold me on that set. And I've been a big fan ever since. I would say my favorite album is Hemispheres. and that's my favorite song as well. Side one is just
Oh.
them at their technical peak, and it's just I love it, man. Great production and just fucking awesome, man. Love it.
Cool.
But no party lyrics, no girls showing their pants, but still fucking awesome.
They were back in
Had
the-
I known you were going to mention that little those gum things, man, I have that somewhere buried in like a little drawer of stuff. I would have pulled that out.
You have the Permanent Waves one, yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Cool, man.
I haven't seen one of those things in years. I remember those like chewing gum came with it, right?
Yeah, it was a bubblegum record. Like
Yeah, it looked like a little record.
it was a 2-inch. No, I was kidding.
My collection is not complete now. I don't have one of those in my groovy old 70s, 80s room I live in here. Rock Fantasy Studio, I call it. All right. Pete Pardo, your opening words for tonight's show.
Well, I will say a year ago today was a pretty sad day.
Yes.
And, I remember it like it was yesterday, hearing about it. I think it was about 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon. And I think it just took everybody by complete shock. And I mean, Neil was like one of those guys that we thought would always be around. I think there's this perception of the band Rush because it's 3 equal characters in this band. All 3 are superstars. All 3 are virtuosos. And, they weren't the typical, rock star band of going out and doing crazy things and all that other stuff. They were always seemed like the consummate professionals. I think we always had this perception that the guys in Rush were going to be around always, even if not as a band together, they were always going to be there. And then all of a sudden, we didn't even know he was sick, and boom, he's gone. And I remember so many people were so hurting a year ago, and it took a while to get over that. And so just a really, really big loss. I think one of for me, probably the biggest loss that I really felt since Ronnie James Dio passed away. That's how much of an impact it was for me. But so I love all the stories that everybody's telling. I think we all have a lot of similar type stories of when this band came into our lives. And I've heard a lot of people say, 10 years old, 12 years old. And it was about 12 for me too. So I remember, I was 12 in 1978. And a good buddy of mine invited me over to hang out, and he pulled out the All the World's a Stage album. And I was like, wow, this is really heavy, really different. That voice was really different. And, I remember opening up the LP and seeing all those great live shots. I'm a sucker for live concert photographs and all that. And then he turned me on to Hemispheres and 2112. And Farewell to Kings. And again, I don't know if it was Matt who mentioned, opening up the LP and reading those lyrics. I never cared about lyrics before. I grew up as a Kiss fan. You didn't give a shit about the lyrics. The lyrics, what they were, right? I mean, it's just they were fun lyrics.
Hey, what are you trying to say, man? What are you trying to say?
They're great, but it's all about partying and chicks and all that kind of stuff and whatever, and that's cool. But also you had this band who were writing fantasy book lyrics and sci-fi lyrics, and it was really different and really cool. For the first time, you could say, "Whoa, this is something I can actually read to and really get into while I'm listening to this crazy advanced music." And it was heavy, but it was progressive. It was thoughtful. And I was really digging it. But the moment I really, really got into this band was Moving Pictures. I liked what I heard. I was digging it. But Moving Pictures to me was absolutely fantastic. And I think that is what made a lot of people big-time Rush fans. And I remember going to see them at Madison Square Garden on that tour and thinking, wow, this is just amazing. And I caught them on the Signals tour, Grace Under Pressure. And then I didn't see them for many years until the final tour.
Oh, wow.
That was that they went out there again. It's funny. I saw them first time in Madison Square Garden and for the last time in Madison Square Garden. Both shows absolutely epic. And I love the way on that final tour, they took you from the current material and at the end and played all the way through to play stuff off of the first album, like Working Man and all those great songs. And, as far as my favorite albums, I mean, Moving Pictures is probably my favorite, but man, in the last bunch of years, Caress of Steel, I play all the time. I mean, The Necromancer, Fly By Night, another great song. By-Tor Anthem is probably my favorite Rush song of all time. So many great songs. Grace Under Pressure, I've grown to love because I actually did not like the 80s stuff. in the 80s.
Oh,
Because I was getting so into heavier music. I was listening to thrash and all this, kind of stuff that was moving towards extreme metal, and the Rush music in the 80s, the latter part of the 80s, I really wasn't into. And now, as an old guy, I'm like, wow, those albums are really, really good. And I love the latter period stuff. So just an incredibly important band who were always just so classy, and their music, I just think that, 10, 20 years down the road, we're going to say that Rush music, whether it was the old stuff, the heavy stuff, the 80s stuff, or the latter period stuff, it's all pretty timeless and absolutely classic.
I'd have to agree with all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Holds up.
So I guess I'll tell a little bit about my story. When I started off here, I was talking a little bit about how my friends let me borrow All the World's a Stage was my gateway Rush drug too, I guess. And in the winter of '78, I remember my friend telling me, he's like, and he was my guy that turned me on to it. He was really big into them, bigger than I was at the time. And he was like, hey, Rush is coming to the Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie. That's where our shows were. I'm in Middletown, New York, if anybody's watching from far away. I still remember waiting outside the Ticketron. Like, first we're waiting in our cars, then first we're out in that cold line. Oh, the joys of concert ticket getting in the 70s. It was almost like part of the event, though. You'd find out, hey, so-and-so is going on sale, like, whenever. So some people would go there at, like, 10 o'clock at night and spend the whole night in the parking lot.
Steve, did you go to the Sears?
What's that?
Did you go to the
Sears? It was at Sears in Middletown, yeah, and you'd wait. And then as soon as you saw somebody else pull up, you'd say, oh, fuck, we got to get out of the car now. We'd get there early. So I remember the day the concert the day it arrived, I still remember the odor of everyone snorting Rush. Back in the 70s at the head shops, I mean, I don't sell it. I own a head shop now. There's these little yellow bottles, and everybody was snorting it, and I hated the smell of it. I think I might have tried it once, and I was like, this is awful. But I remember everyone that's snorting Rush at the thing. So that's my weird story about it. And onto the concert was mind-blowing. All three of them, they were firing on all cylinders. I was a 17-year-old, very impressive kid. Getty screeching, but like precise vocals, the bass, Alex's lead guitars, and Neil behind that massive, exotic, like, drum kit. The lights, the sounds, like I said, my 17-year-old persona was in heaven. That concert to this day, I say 42 years ago, and how many hundreds of shows I've seen since then, I still claim that to be the best performance I might have ever witnessed in my lifetime. And it helped cement my path to a lifelong, a lifelong in the music biz, pretty much. A lifelong life in the music biz, selling records. I mean, first I started out selling bootleg concert shirts in the beginning at fairs and flea markets, into running my shop. And here I sit all these years later, hanging out in a room full of blacklight posters and records and having a beer and talking rock and roll with some of my heroes. So I appreciate all you guys coming on tonight. That set list from that year, I mean, going in, it was like they opened up with Anthem. It was like Passage to Bangkok, Vitor and the Snow Dog, Xanadu, Something from Nothing. Then you get the whole, then you got the Trees, and then the whole Hemispheres. Slows it down closer to the heart, and then the Circumstances, Farewell to Kings, and then Strangiato, and then bang into 2112. I mean, what's better than that? It was just amazing. And it was just I can't go over. I missed, and then like they came around the following year, and I missed it painstakingly. I missed that following Permanent Waves tour. After landing tickets, like really good tickets, we had like fourth row or something at that time. That was really good for me. 2 days before I contracted the measles, my mom, I'm an only kid. My mom was like, there's no way you're leaving the house. I remember my gal and everybody went off with my two best friends, and I laid in bed. I was so pissed. I didn't want to listen to that new album for a couple months after, because you know how you get so mad about missing a show? At least I am. Like, I ain't listening to it then. And at that time, I mostly went to shows in Poughkeepsie. I didn't stray into New York City. At first, I was very let down. But I was kind of let down by Permanent Waves when it came out, too. From being in, like, All the World's a Stage and 2112 and Hemispheres, I wasn't quite as fast and heavy an album, I think. I mean, then came the Excellent Moving Pictures, and I wore out the copy of that Exit Stage Left, too, the other live album, which I thought was really good. I didn't get to see him again until Signals tour in '82. And I love them still, but like Pete said, I got really involved with the heavy metal and the thrash metal movement. And I still listen to their albums, but I really overlooked a lot of, especially stuff towards the late 80s, like Presto and all that. I saw that. I'm like, oh my God, there's like rabbits in the cover. I'm looking for something like, you know, I'm listening to Creator Pleasure to Kill and stuff like that, you know? And,
On Dead Rabbits.
yeah, I saw them again on the Counterpart store. Then later in life, I saw the R30 tour, and every tour that followed after that, at least 1 or 2 dates of tour, I would go see. Of course, I live here in the New York City area, and I could catch tours. Like if a tour came around like that, John used to live around here. He knows, and so Pete and Matt do too. I mean, if you really wanted to see the tour, you could see it at the Garden. You could probably catch it in Albany, catch it in Wilkes-Barre, go around. And I used to do that a lot. And Snakes and Arrows, the Time Machine, I saw that in the Garden, which was amazing. And I saw R40 at the Prudential Center. I had tickets for the Garden too, Pete, but I couldn't go because my mom was really deathly ill that weekend. She made it through that weekend, but I wasn't even going to go to the R40, and my wife said, "You got to go. You got to go to the show. You're going to regret it if you don't go. Your mom will you talk to her on the phone, go to the show, go see her in the morning," which I did. And like I said, I kind of overlooked the 80s stuff, but that band meant so much to me. I used the lyrics from the song After Image from Grace Under Pressure as part of my dad's eulogy at his wake. I thought it was just like their music reaches out to me. Looking back now, I mean, I love the 80s. I call it like the poppy, synthy stuff. I love that stuff as dear to my heart as some of the stuff from the 70s. I just like Hold Your Fire. All those albums are really good to me. And Pete did an episode on the Sea of Tranquility with Hudson Valley Squares a few weeks ago. And Presto was one of the things I said, it was one of the things I overlooked was Presto, actually, after going back and listening to it. So that was my long-winded message. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Pete?
Well, I have a question. We've got a lot of drummers here. And I guess, John, you and I are guitar players and probably not the perfect people to answer this question. But for the drummers in the panel, like, what does Neil mean to you guys? And where do you kind of place him in the kind of pantheon of rock drummers and history of music?
Who's going
Who's
first?
starting here? That's a big question. I'll start. Fuck it. I mean, I can't really see anything that hasn't already been said about him. You know, he's just incredible. You know, he's the driving force behind Rush. You know, not just his drumming, but his lyrics, as everyone's already talked about. And I'm a very realistic person, so I don't ever aspire to be as good as him, so I don't even try. No, but like,
he's the professor.
I never sit in my studio and try to play Rush songs because it's just, I can't do it as good as him, so I just focus on my own style, you know. But yeah, he's incredible, and he's out of my reach. Who's next?
Who wants to go next, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, let's take the look. You go back to the 70s when they start, the mustache, the long hair, you know, the crazy outfits they would wear, you know. There's pictures of him when he'd be in the dressing room reading a book and smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
You know, like, you just didn't picture that with this awesome, I don't know, like, just the persona, especially flashing forward to all the years later, like then and now, you're like, that guy used to smoke? No way. You know? Yeah. Drumming wise, or let's stick with the look, you know, Presto, right? I love the record. I was a thrash guy. I was a metal guy. I was trying to play like Paul in that era. Like, I was learning that stuff. And, but Presto was always on my radar because Show Don't Tell, the video, right? They talking about the looks, like all of a sudden they looked like they should be in Miami Vice, you know, like they had that vibe going. And that was the synth era and everything, but the music was awesome. And a lot of people slept on it. There's, it's funny, like the bass tones, like it could be the Seinfeld thing, you know, like, but it just still fit with the music, and the synths made sense. And drumming wise, like, this is one of the things I always ripped, and it was on Show Don't Tell, like the trademark Neil type stuff where he's going between the snare and the hi-hat, and it's the I heard that for the first time probably in that song, and I was like, oh my God, ran down to the drum set. I got to know how to do this. What, the kick hits this? Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, I got it. You get that pattern, and it's like you discover something new. Go back, take a song like Different Strings, right? The hi-hat. How does he get that tone? Like total tip of the stick. You know, we're all bashing away and everything. He's just real finesse in the hi-hat, and it's through the whole tune. Just so subtle. There was just all these textures with the music that I loved, you know, drumming-wise. And then you're like, the guy writes the lyrics too?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like you go back to that. Roll the Bones, great song, you know. Look at Earthshine off of Vapor Trails. That song's heavy as F. So that's another era of Rush where they were like, were they down tuning or something? You know, it was like just real heavy, deep groove, just different from Tom Sawyer or something like that, you know. There's just so many textures to the band that you can explore. Washing machines on stage instead of bass amps, you know. The Laser Show. I think the Roll the Bones tour, Getty on stage, they did like a laser pyramid with the lights around his head while he's playing, like something like that. You know, they just
very Gary Newman.
Yeah, like the Pink Floyd vibe. They totally took the Pink Floyd vibe with the laser shows and stuff in the 80s. They just constantly reinvented themselves as a band, and then of course the drumming wise, you know, Neil's the professor. You know, he's the king of prog rock drumming.
It's funny you bring up their look. That was actually one of the things that prevented me from being a Rush fan for maybe an extra 10 years was when I saw the inner sleeve of Grace Under Pressure, the picture of the three of them going like that, the black and white picture. I was like, dude, these guys don't look like they rock, man.
It's funny. It's funny too, because like, you know, do you remember when they got inducted into the Rock Hall and Grohl did the speech where he's like, "When the hell did Rush become cool?" And them in the white robes, and they're just like, you know, yeah, there you go. Miami Vice.
It reminded me of like Leave It to Beaver or something. That picture. I was like, whoa.
Getty's face is hilarious.
Getty, yeah.
I'm glad I had that top. Well, I had it just in reach too.
You had that ready to go.
I didn't know I was going to need that one, but yeah. Like even today, I was kind of scrolling through some videos of my wife watching, like just going through YouTube and pulling up some of that stuff, and it was so abstract. I forget which song it was now, but it had the girl that sang. Was that Time Stands Still? I think. Yeah, Time Stands Still. And it had I can't think of her name. Do you know the name, Pete?
Kate Bush.
Yeah, that's Amy Mann from Till Tuesday.
Oh, I thought it was Kate Bush. Whoa.
Amy Mann, and she's like with the camera following them around and just saying the one little part, and like it was such. And my wife goes, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on here?" Because she's not a giant Rush fan, and she's used to just seeing like, you know, the back in the day Hemispheres stuff. It's like, oh my God, look what they look like now. It was a cool video though. I love Time Stand Still. I said, well, listen to the meaning behind the lyrics. It's just trying to, you know, as you get older, you look back at some memories and stuff. I mean, his lyrics are amazing. Going from these, you know, sci-fi comic book type things right to really real life stuff. Like, you know, he sings about anxiety. He sings about all different stuff. It's amazing. He was an amazing lyricist along with a drummer, like we said.
His storytelling became very personal in the latter half of his career.
It did. So, Paul, we have to still talk to you and Lou about some what Pete's question was about how his drumming affected your life.
You going, Lou? Should I go?
Go for it. I'll go for it, please.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, I think he's the best drummer there ever was, really. You know, in a rock and roll sense. I mean, I don't think there's anybody better. You know, I always name him as an influence, and I'm not even close. I could never play anything he plays. You know, I mean, I'm not that drummer, not at all. Just like, you know, like Will was saying, but just the way he played the drums, it just inspired you as a drummer, no matter what you were going to do. And obviously, I went completely in a different direction, of course, but but man, I think he's just the best drummer of all time, really, in a rock and roll sense. He was just everything he did. You just magnify, you put it under a magnifying glass kind of a thing, under the microscope, I guess. And, just so tasteful. I love how he just always did something different. There was never the same fill in the song. Whenever a part would come up and it would be time to do a fill, and if you listen to the song, he never did the same fill twice. It was always something different. That was something that I kind of try to incorporate, I guess, what I do with Cannibal. Always try to do something a little bit different within the song, and not be repetitive. And that was something that always stuck with me, and I really admired about him. But man, I really believe that he was the best of all time.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
So Lou, I mean, you've got a whole other thing. These guys are all saying we can't play like him, and then you have to play somewhat like him with your tribute band. And I mean, I've seen you guys, and you're amazing.
I appreciate it, and I think you said it right. I have to play somewhat like him. I mean, that's about the best I shoot for. Like I was saying earlier, and to reiterate everything that all of you guys said, it's just I couldn't agree with everything that you guys have said and then some, because that's really, I guess, the drummer's story. If you're a drummer and you've discovered Neil and Rush, it strikes you in that way. And it taught me a whole different way to look at the drums. And as I was saying, like, being a Keith Moon fan, Keith Moon and Peter Criss kind of made me pick up sticks. And then someone says, here's Neil. And I went, wait, it can be that precise and that much thought, and I have to do math while I'm figuring this out. Like, what the hell? And eventually that kind of got me inspired to do the tribute thing. And we just fell into Limelight by accident. But yeah, I mean, his drumming has just been so influential to me. Yeah, like a year ago, to kind of reiterate what Pete said earlier, a year ago today, when I'm home, I teach at the local school of rock in my area. And I was walking through the hallways in between students, and like you do, you open up your phone and, go on social media for a second. And I saw it kind of come up, and I stopped in the hallway and went, well, boy, that's a crappy joke for someone to put online. And I scroll a little more, and I saw it again, and I saw it again. And I was like, holy crap, that they're not kidding. Like, this actually happened. It didn't seem feasible, because again, them being so quiet to themselves and it being something that we never heard about, it was that much more shocking. So, I definitely kind of, I think I walked to my manager and just kind of showed him the phone, like, probably like had like this like look on my face of like, what's going on, man? And I just kind of showed him the phone and walked back upstairs to my next student, like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, just definitely would have to say easily one of the most influential rock drummers for sure. I mean, there's so many folks that are inspired by him and trying to take it to another level. I've just always tried to, with the Limelight stuff, and we go out and perform, we kind of joke about there being the cross arm brigade out there, the real Rush fans and the musicians, because they're the ones that are in this audience like this at the beginning of the show. And we're like, all right, I hope we can at least get those guys to do this by the end of the show. Then we know we did okay. And, that just keeping you on, it keeps me on my toes. I have to, like I say, I have to play somewhat like him to even make the show work. And even if you're not a drummer, if I miss something, I missed it, and it keeps you on your toes. So, thank him for keeping me so inspired to always try and do things as good as I can when I'm behind the kit, whether it be with Limelight or, a session, or even just, if I'm just jamming some covers with a friend, I kind of feel it's my job to approach the drums like, well, he always took it so seriously, and kind of made me think that way too.
Very well put.
So to bring John back into the conversation here, so I want to get John's take on another aspect of this band. So John, like in recent years, I guess I've always thought this, but Alex Lifeson is probably one of the most unique players of all time.
Yeah.
I think the more time goes on, the more you kind of grow to appreciate their music as a band, you really start to realize how truly unique he was. Do you kind of get that as well?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's one of those bands. The way he plays a lot of time, he accents like the bass lines or the drums. It's like an accented instrument a lot of times. It's really amazing. Yeah. When I first really got into Rush, I didn't realize how good Neil was on drums because it just sounded like he was playing so effortlessly that it was just like, okay, you know, he's a great drummer, but I've heard great drummers before. I mean, I knew it was spectacular, but it didn't blow me away. It blew me away more. Actually, the guitar and the bass were just, that's what I was learning how to play at the time. I'm just like, holy crap. And especially, yeah, the way Alex plays his stuff is just really, really interesting. I mean, earlier stuff was a little more rock and roll, you know, something you'd say closer to Led Zeppelin or almost like a Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, you know, he's just doing these cool chords and just kind of accenting these little things. It's almost like how Neil uses his drums to accent parts. He started using his guitar to like accent parts in the song. And the songs like speak. It's hard to explain, but they like speak to you in different ways. Like each instrument is part of this whole expression of the whole thing. And, you know, like when I listen to Rush songs, it kind of takes me away. Like my imagination just starts flowing into this like journey or something like that. I mean, and the lyrics on top of it, you know, that just adds like a whole nother layer to it. It's really incredible to, you know, I mean, I could never write a song like that. Not even close. I couldn't even understand how to play guitar to make it work like that in a song. Because I look at things in a so opposite way, but you listen to it, it really is phenomenal. The way the guitar accents it and like speaks to you through it. But like I said, every instrument it seems like it's there for a purpose. It's not just there to keep this rhythm and song going. It's like each part of the song and each thing that happens is something. It's something that if it wasn't there, the song wouldn't be right. As a songwriter, it just blows my mind when I hear songwriters that can do stuff that's that spectacular and be so non-selfish, especially in the later stuff. Like they're all giving room for everybody to really expand and just make sense with the pieces that they're putting in there. It's not just a bunch of wanking and, you know, everyone trying to prove how good they are. It's what needs to be at that spot at that time. And those are the best musicians are ones that know how to just put the right sound in the right spot and find a way to do it, you know?
As much as I love him, there's no Yngwie Malmsteen in Rush.
Yeah, I love Yngwie Malmsteen. But yeah, it's the way it should be, though, for Rush. It works, especially with the storytelling type lyrics in the songs. It's almost like a, you know, watching a little movie each song or something like that to me. And like I said, I didn't realize until way later how good Neil Peart was. Like I said, I thought he was great, but you just don't realize it because everything is so great and everything's so effortlessly. It's just flowing. It just happens. And, you know, I'm hearing these technical drum parts and I'm thinking, oh, it just sounds like it's supposed to be that way. And then somebody, you know, I tell like what my drummer to play it or something, and he's like, "What are you on crack? You know, how do you want me to play this part? You know, that's a cool part. You know, do something like Neil Peart does there." And it's like it's not that simple, you know. But to me, as a guitar player, it sounds simple because he's doing it so flawlessly. You know,
I thought you were gonna. I thought when you said you didn't notice Neil's drumming or you didn't think he was all that great at first because you're gonna say you were more of a John Rutsey fan.
Not quite.
Yeah, I was pissed, pissed about that.
I mean, seriously, I wonder if there's anyone in the history of the world that heard Neil Peart and said, I'm more of a John Rutsey guy, man. I don't know about this new guy.
Probably some of John's friends probably said that, yeah.
I have some people that are cult enough where they would say that, you know?
Totally.
They only like the
yeah,
Rush
for
demo.
sure. I only liked the first demo by Rush. The hell with the
Yeah,
rest of
right.
the stuff.
They
Yeah,
sold
exactly,
out,
sold
man.
out.
They sold out.
Well, look who we've got a surprise guest that popped into the bottom lower screen. We got Mr. Chris Caffery from Savatage, TSO, Doro Pesh, Metal Church, Spirits of Fire.
Anybody else that'll pay me? No, just kidding.
Well, welcome.
I heard you talking about guitar players, and I heard that they were flawless, so I knew it couldn't be me. But anyway, I showed up, and I don't have a whole lot of time, but I told you I'd try to stop by. I didn't realize it was 8 to 10, but time
Thank
flies.
you.
Yeah. But
So go ahead. What's your Rush thoughts tonight?
Well, I mean, Rush is well, God, I saw Rush, my second concert ever. Me and my brother and my friend Butch's dad would drive us to Nassau Coliseum. I don't know why we picked Nassau Coliseum. I think it was probably the easiest place for us to get tickets at some point for some reason. But we saw, I think it was the Permanent Waves tour. So I was like 12 years old, and beyond their music, which was obviously amazing, there was just something about when you went to see them live. Like I saw a Kiss concert when I was 11, but when I went to see Rush, and being in TSO, what we do with production, that was the first time I really saw lights be a part of the show. Like Kiss had great lights, but the lights weren't really breathing with the music like Rush did. Rush had a lighting designer that made those songs really match the lights. It wasn't pyro, it was a different kind of effect. So I knew that about that concert, and until the last time I saw Rush, I think the very last time I saw them was at Radio City when they had that one of their last tours there. And it was that same aspect with them. They were still living that light show part of that, bringing the songs alive. And that's something that we always did with TSO. I mean, I love their music. I like personally being a young guitar player. And this is nothing in offense to Alex, but his guitar playing was actually some of the easiest for you to pick up because he wasn't a Malmsteen. He was a good player. He played, if you had a good chord technique, if you knew how to read chords and play good chords, Rush songs were some of the ones that you would pick up fastest as a guitar player because they just were not 700 million notes like I'll See the Light Tonight or something like that, where you had to go back over and over again. So it was more fun for me to play a song like Working Man as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old than it was some of these other guitar songs, because I sucked to the point where some of those other ones I just wasn't good enough to play. So you were able to get through Rush songs on the guitar a little bit easier out of the bass, just because the guitar, with Neil's drums being as busy as they were, and with Geddy's bass being as busy as it was, a lot of the times Alex's guitars were some of the most solid and simple parts of the rhythms in the Rush songs. I don't know if people have really realized that, but I mean, he was an amazing guitar player, but his writing of his chords, a lot of times during those songs, it's funny, the bass to me was impossible to be able to sing over. And Geddy sang over it. But those guitar chord parts in the verses, some of those you could have sang over. Because I knew when I wrote my first solo record and I sang, I was so stupid because I wrote these songs and recorded the music, then did the singing. And then I had to go play it live, and I was like, there's no fucking way in hell I can play and sing this thing at the same time. So it was kind of like that with the Rush bass parts. I don't know how Geddy Lee sang, played bass, and played keyboards with his feet and sang that music in time like that. To me, that is one of the greatest talents that somebody can have, is being able to match that. It's like the rub your hands to tap your head or whatever kind of a thing. It's just like doing those two things at once. But I mean, I loved all those records. I loved how one song was a whole side of a record, how you just like would sit and live a whole entire song like that. And there was a lot of their songwriting that really influenced me. And people always used to complain because I had lots of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-minute songs when I would write, and it would bother people a lot. And a lot of that came from two bands in particular, and that was Maiden and Rush, as far as when I just started writing songs that were ridiculously too long, and I didn't care what people thought about that. So, but that's about it. I mean, it was the second concert I ever saw. It was Rush and think it was the opening band was called like the Playmates or something like that. Some weird name of band I never heard of. I mean, my first concert I saw was Kiss, and the band that I never heard of that was opening was Judas Priest, and that was that was way better luck than the Playmates. Like some little Canadian band, you know, that I guess never really made it, but they were on that tour. But yeah, it's a great band. It's definitely one of the most creative and best writing bands that I think in my opinion, there was so many incredible songs. I mean, some bands we'd be lucky to write one record as good as Hemispheres, but to have Hemispheres, 2112 and Caress of Steel in a row, I mean, that's just, and then you follow it up with Permanent Waves. That's writing on a level that is almost mind-blowing to me sometimes.
Chris, could it have been Max Webster that opened up for him? Because they toured quite a bit with them the latter part.
I don't know, Pete. Where was that one?
I don't remember.
By the way, I didn't see you weren't on my little squares. Actually, you were covered by the updates ready to install thing up in the corner. So you were hidden behind that till you came in the middle. I don't think I did. I don't think I saw that one. I really don't.
I don't remember who opened up for the Hemispheres tour either. I think Butch Jones mentioned it on Hudson Valley Squares the other night, Pete. Maybe it was Max Webster. I'm not
pretty sure it was, yeah.
You know what? I guess it didn't make that big of an impression on me, obviously.
If Kiss had an opening band called the Playmates, they'd be actual Playmates.
Was there a band called the Fools, too?
The Fools. If you listen to
Fools, I gotta research this while I stop talking here in about 3 seconds because I've said it already. I'm gonna go because you could do that. You could Google history of the bands and they'll tell you who played. I will find out who this was.
All right, go ahead.
The Fools or the Play. It was somebody that I never heard of again after that concert, and that's why.
Yeah.
Nobody ever else. But I'll do that. But that's what I have to say. You know, I really don't have anything else. And actually, you know what? If you listen to a lot of the old Savatage music that Chris Oliva had written, he was very influenced by just what I had said, Alex Lifeson's use of those full open guitar chords, you know, all 6 strings and the little high end chord, the particular chords that he would use, the way he would play the top end of the minor bar chord, just those 4 strings on the very top end of bar chords. And that kind of writing was in a lot of the Savatage stuff that Chris did, and that was definitely something to me that I thought he was the first to bring into my guitar playing, was that besides like the Beatles or something, was that full guitar chord thing, the clean chords with the full, really clean, long, heavy amount of presence of that clean big chord, you know, and the stuff that he did in you know, like what was the what's that the Tide Pool song?
Natural Science.
Yeah, that one had those chords, you know. It was just like that was the thing when you heard them, like, it's so cool. And that influence, I think, came a lot to me through Rush out of the start with that stuff.
Awesome. Well, let's go to our closing statements for each one of us tonight. That's what I call the last chapter of the show tonight. And I'll do mine first, I guess, and then we'll go through John and go around to Ben. And let's see, we can also talk about your projects with your bands too, briefly, if you want to let everybody know what's going on with your bands for 2021 and see what's happening. I'm just going to do some of the songs, like some of my favorite songs, Bastille Day, of course, from Caress of Steel, Anthem, By Tour to Snow Dog from Fly By Night. My favorite, of course, is the 2112 Overture, Temples of Syrinx. That's my favorite thing from Rush, even though I love everything. Something from Nothing, Passion from Bangkok. I mean, the whole album. I had a bunch of, you know, I had a big barbecue party I used to do 4th of July before this shit happened, and whole house full of metalheads listening to Slayer, listening to all this heavy shit all day. Put on Rush 2112, and everybody's banging their fucking head just as much as with the extreme metal. And of course, the Cygnus X1, A Farewell to Kings, and then you go right into that Cygnus X on book 2. Like, how amazing was that? How you can just extend that one album into the other. And I have a whole list of stuff. I mean, Dreamline from Roll the Bones, Signals, of course, Subdivisions, I loved Countdown, which is like the NASA rocket launch. Hold Your Fire, like Time Stands Still. Turn the Page, I love. On Presto, The Pass. Red Tide, which is, I was hanging out in Florida. I didn't know what the Red Tide was. I'm like, fuck, that's a Rush song. They were singing about this shit. Like, we couldn't even go to the beach. I know Paul knows about the Red Tide.
Oh, yeah.
We went down on vacation. We couldn't go to the beach. It smelled like the worst smell ever, like dead fish all over the place. I'm like, well, Rush knew about it already. So
I found the set list from that concert at Nassau Coliseum. Holy shit! Wow.
cool. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know if you like. Let me read you this set list really quick. This is insane. They open with. Let me. But well, since I said it, they open with 2112. Into Free Will. Into Bytor. Into Xanadu. Spirit of the Radio. Natural Science. Passes to Bangkok. The Trees. Into the Cygnus Stuff. Then Closer to the Heart. Beneath. Between and Behind, Jacob's Ladder, Working Man, Finding My Way, Anthem, Bastille Day, In the Mood, Drum Solo, then encore was La Villa. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Right?
Unbelievable.
That is freaking ridiculous.
The Hemispheres was pretty strong too.
That's the second concert I ever saw in my life.
That's
At
amazing.
age 12, I was, that's
Blown away.
all right. I'm done.
All right, and then I'm just finishing on mine, like Animate from Counterparts, Far Cry off of Snakes and Arrows, BUTB from Clockwork Angels and Carnies. I like that too. So that's kind of like my closing statement for the day. And if you like this show tonight, please subscribe. Next week we're going to do a Van Halen. I'll have some guests on, maybe a couple of the same guys from this show. And every week we're going to try to do something with the Rock Fantasy Files channel. Helps promote my website and my record shop up here in Middletown. John, closing thoughts from Mr. McEntee. Rush, Incantation, tell us what's going on.
I don't know. I mean, Rush rules. I mean, I love especially that 70s stuff. You know, that stuff just crushed my brain. I appreciate all of it. And of course, it's terrible that Neil Peart passed away last year. It's a terrible thing for everybody, for drummers, for anybody that's into music, and just, I mean, not just Rush fans, but just music in general lost, like, ridiculous talent, and, lyrics, his books, everything were just, really interesting, a really interesting person. All the stuff I've ever seen, all the documentaries and everything about him, really seems like an interesting person, real honest to himself. He's not one of those people likes to always be out there and stuff. And I appreciate that, because, not everyone is the crazy rock star and stuff like that. So yeah, I think for me, it's a really sad thing to see him go, but it's life sucks, so you deal with this shit. We had a lot of people pass away recently, unfortunately. He's definitely one of the most, the biggest, and one of the people that really touched so many people around the world. So, I mean, if someone's going to pass, at least they get that kind of impact on the world, which is amazing. And, there's a million songs. Like I said, for me, Farewell to Kings is just one of the best. I listen to that, and it just brings me into another planet or something. And even like, The Trees, you listen to that, the whole aura of that song, it's like you just want to sit back and just, like you said, sit back on that bean couch and just sit there and be like, just soak it all in, and soak in the images that are coming from the music and from the lyrics, and it's just phenomenal. So, I mean, that's all I can really say. I mean, it's just an amazing band and an amazing influence on probably almost anyone that plays drums, writes lyrics, or plays anything.
Cool. Thanks for coming on again tonight, John.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Mr. Byrne, your closing statements tonight.
It was the Fools.
If you listen to Fools,
it was Rush. Sorry. It was Rush and the Fools. Sorry. That's it.
I'm thank for you looking up all the information. That's awesome, Chris.
Well, I got a lot of free time. And another amazing thing about that tour, that Permanent Waves tour, they didn't play Madison Square Garden. They did 3 shows at the Palladium, which that would have been awesome to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
And
just
the
saw
Civic
that in the
Center,
concert
they played the
archive.
Civic Center. They played the Civic Center. You missed it. I was home with the measles. My girlfriend went with my 2 kids. But Matt Byrne, it's your turn now. Closing statements, and you got the new Hatebreed album out, your Rush thoughts, and
Yeah. Well, being a drummer, I mean, there's nothing else to say that hasn't been said about Neil, you know. I have my little idiosyncrasies that I picked up from him, being, you know, learning how to play and everything like that. And like I said, when we started, there's stories, a song you hear or something brings you back to when you first got exposed. There's the picture right there. That's the picture Grohl was talking about at the Rock Hall thing, where he's like, what the hell?
this one.
You guys become cool. And then flash forward to Miami Vice. There you go. Yeah, but, you know, I think everyone's got their stages of life where, you know, every album, like, is a different era and a different stage of your life, where whether it goes from rock and roll to synthy to straight prog, you know, whatever. I liked it all. I liked the later stuff where, you know, maybe a lot of people from back in the day didn't really have them on their radar anymore. They were always on my radar. It was great, you know, and I could honestly say one of the craziest things, being a drummer too, never saw him live. Never.
wow.
Never saw Rush live.
I never got to see Randy Rhoads. He died a week before my ticket stub for the Meadowlands. I never made it to the Capitol Theater show.
That's a little different, though. I mean, Randy Rhoads was only around with Ozzy for
exactly.
the
Yeah,
entire
so I have a little
year.
bit left.
40
Yeah,
years, right?
I'm just trying to give him a break here. I'm trying to, hey,
I mean,
been busy. He was busy for those 30 years at Rush Story.
The closest I ever came, it was one of the Ozfests. I don't remember which one, but playing the Sheds in the summertime, and they were on what was supposed to be one of their farewell tours. They ended up doing more after that summer, but I don't remember what year it was. It might have been 06, 07, but they were kind of following us around, or the Ozfest. It was like, you know, the crisscross thing going on with all the shit throughout the country. So I thought maybe at one point there'd be a couple days off where I might be able to jump over and see them if we just happen to be in the same city. Never happened. So I never got to see him, honestly. Like, it's crazy too. I get my chops busted all the time. What do you mean you play drums? You've never seen them live? Never did. But I soaked in all the material. Just like, you know, Paul, I did the same with you. I sat behind the drums and I had the headphones on and I'm trying to play the parts and nail all the parts and everything. And I just soaked it all in, man. It was the music I grew up learning how to play my instrument on and everything, and just trying to pull off what I was hearing. And, you know, Rush music, like we were talking about before, John, I think you were saying, like, you know, everything just falls into place and each guy is doing exactly what they got to be doing, and it all syncs together and it all makes sense. And there's no improv there, right? Because if you're jamming with a friend and you try to rip some fill that doesn't belong there, it sounds like shit. And you might have pulled off the most ripping fill, or it just doesn't belong. You have to play exactly what he played, and that's it, or else it doesn't make sense. So not many, I mean, you can improv a lot. You can't do it with Rush. It doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, Neil is like the king of the fill, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well,
And last thing, we talked about Natural Science. What a great tune. It's a composition. It's got the tide pool water and then, you know, all the different parts, everything. Some of those parts, like, they don't gel together, but because it's Rush, they do. And I know with other friends who are into different genres of music and stuff, maybe they're into some Rush, maybe not, but I've had the tune cranked in my car. We're driving and I've had people say, this song sucks.
That's the same thing they say about the songs I write. No.
Yeah.
My Super One songs get that same thing, right, Pete?
Yeah. So, I mean, but you know, if you know Rush, if you're into Rush, you know all the material. That's the type of song, like the last cut, right? That's the last cut on Permanent.
Yeah.
The last tune, it's like 8-10 minutes long between the fade in and the fade out. That's one of my favorite songs. and a lot of people hate it, but it
That's
just
one of my favorite Rush songs for real too.
I love it too.
It's so great, so
Amazing.
great. The guitar
Yep.
tone, the drums, and
Yep.
everything. It's just there's many aspects, many textures to Rush that are appreciated, whether you're a drummer or not, whether you're a Neil fan or not. And also, I think, like, you know, Neil wasn't the original guy, as we know, Rutsy. Cheers to him, because, you know, whatever. He's an OG, man. But you know what other three-piece band has stuck around that lineup for as long as that band did? ZZ Top. They're the only other ones.
Yeah,
right?
ZZ Top. I was going to say that.
Yeah. But other than that, it's a true testament.
Venom? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Venom's got two different numbers.
Death Angel. No, but like, what other band? I mean, 3 guys or 5 guys. What band has kept the lineup? They had such a chemistry that they loved being around each other. And if you watch the documentary, Behind the Lighted Stage and everything, R40, Russian Rio, all the stuff where they're behind the scenes, going to the stage, in the cars, in the hotel room, backstage, whatever. They were just like, they were still just these dorky kids from Canada that were just like, wow, we're here.
With the goofy Canadian sense of humor that Alex Lifeson had. It's the same like Jeff Waters from Annihilator. I don't know if any of you guys ever get a chance to. He toured with Savatage in the band for a couple of weeks when Petrelli couldn't go to Europe because of a DWI. And Waters had that really wacky, crazy Canadian sense of humor, that whole Jim Carrey, just real Second City television thing that Alex Lifeson had every time you look at those Rush things. And that's what the guys on Rush always talked about too, just how funny that guy was constantly. He was
well, look at his Rock Hall speech, one of the greatest ones ever done.
Yeah, exactly.
And he didn't say a damn thing.
Yeah,
he didn't
exactly.
say a damn thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to add something. Take off to the great
Take
white
off,
north.
eh? Oh yeah, take off, eh?
Yeah.
You hoser.
Alex Slicer is my favorite member of Rush.
Posers.
And I saw Rush on Vapor Trails tour. They played the Mountain View Theater in Mountain View, California. It's an amphitheater. And a friend of mine took me to the show. He was friends with Alex Lyson's guitar tech at the time. And so they got us these all-access passes, tickets, and we had like we were seated like in front of the front row. So people who actually paid for the front row were pissed off because we were blocking like a few people's view of the stage. Kind of like we were almost on the stage.
Now you know what it feels like to be Mark Weiss.
Yeah, exactly. So like we're watching them, and like we're pretty much standing in front of Geddy Lee's keyboard. So we're watching them work the pedals and playing, and I'm watching Alex Lifeson the whole time. He's over on the other side of the stage, and I guess he caught on to me staring at him, and we were practically on the stage. He comes like sauntering over, playing his guitar the way he sways and stuff, and he comes on over and he walks right up to me, and I stop breathing because I can't believe he's looking right at me. I was like, holy shit. And I didn't know what to do, so I was just kind of staring at him with a blank look on his face, and he looked at me and went, yeah, like that. And I was like, oh shit! And I just he totally snapped me out of my fucking like daze I was in, and I started rocking out, whatever, you know. And then he sauntered back over to his side of the stage, but like he could just tell I was starstruck and I wasn't breathing, and he just screamed in my face. So that's my Alex Lifeson story.
Awesome.
That is a great one. Great one.
So is that your closing statement also, Will?
Sure. And I just want to mention a song that no one's brought up, Camera Eye. That's like, that's my favorite song on Moving Pictures. And it's kind of like the ignored track on that album. Like they didn't play it on that tour. And I know that they have played it live since then, but I don't think they played it on the Moving Pictures tour.
They played it on the Time Machine. The Time Machine.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, it's the most epic song on the album. And yeah, I love the breakdown in the middle section where they go back into the intro. It's just fucking awesome, man.
And the lyrics of that song are so in depth too that Neil wrote. It's like amazing.
Yep.
Can I jump back in real quick? Because I know we just got messed up, and I'm gonna end my outro or whatever we call it with this. We got beer, hatebreed.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Nice.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Ship some over, Matt. I need.
I
some
got to
of that.
get you guys some of this. It's great. It's a lager. It's 4.5%.
Oh,
It's like a Stella. It's like a Stella.
Oh, nice.
I need
So,
some in Middletown. I have to have a fire pit for Matt to come over, so we'll drink some beer soon.
I got 4 packs, baby. I'll bring it over.
Let's
We'll
do it.
rage. It's great. Good
Nice.
stuff.
Awesome.
So that's
Maybe
what I wanted
Lou
to
can
do.
come over too. The Hudson Valley guys can come over. How about closing statement from who wants to go first? Paul or Lou? I give it to you. Paul? Lou?
No, though, sure. I mean, what hasn't been said though? You know, you guys hit on so many great points, and
Sure.
you know, Neil's such a amazing drummer, of course, and you know, we're just all fortunate to be able to be sitting here talking about Rush and Neil and their legacy and all the great music they've provided with for the masses for, you know, 40 plus years. I mean, amazing, right? You know, so. But I guess I'm just a huge fan of the old stuff, really. You know, I didn't really delve too much into the latter material, which I need to do. You know, I've been always meaning to do that, and I kind of stopped, I guess, around the Signals album. I don't know. I guess, yeah, I was starting to get into a little more of the heavier stuff, and you know, just kind of fell to the wayside, unfortunately. But you know, I know they wrote some great albums after that, all that, and you know, I was fortunate enough to see them 5 times throughout my life, which is great. And, you know, yeah, we're talking songs here. I know bringing up a bunch of ones we didn't talk about, but I want to bring up one of my favorite too is Red Barchetta.
Oh, yeah.
Of moving pictures. I mean,
yeah, I didn't mention that. I had it written down. That's a great driving song, isn't it?
Yeah, what an amazing song. You know, just such a feel-good song. Every time you hear it, you can't help but get like a tear in your eye, basically, you know, when you hear that song. The lyrics and just the way, you know, the way it's put together is just amazing. But like I said, what else can be said here? But I'm going to try to see if I can put this into the picture frame here. If this will work here. Here's my first ticket stub from 1983 on the Signals tour there in Buffalo, New York at the Memorial Auditorium. So,
Awesome, man.
Yeah. So that was
awesome.
Keep all my ticket stubs from everything I've been to, and I'm you know, very, very happy that I've still got that, and you know, I'm glad I was able to witness seeing them play live 5 times in my life. So cheers
I had
to
the
Rush.
Camera Eye listed. It's on here somewhere. See, Camera Eye. I did mention it, but I didn't say it.
Hey, Steve, Red Barchetta would be a great song for a Rush pinball machine. Did I say that out loud?
Oh my God! Don't break any fake news here. I've got a Walking Dead pinball machine that plays Cannibal Corpse. Don't sue me, Paul.
Oh, hey, I need some of that. Well, hey, what's up?
I mean, we got a Walking Dead pinball machine in my store that my buddy did a code for that plays mostly Slayer, but when you get the multi-ball, it plays one of your.
It plays Frantic Disembowelment.
No, it doesn't play that one. It plays. I got the song in my head.
Nobody can play that one.
It's one of the videos we got out, but anyhow.
That'd be a perfect multi-ball song.
Before you leave, Paul, way off topic, but Cannibal Corpse new album coming this year.
Well, you know, I'm not going to say too much, but we're if you wait till February 2nd, it'll be a big announcement happening. What's happening with our band here? So good. So another month to go, a little less than that, and everybody will be knowing what's happening in the Cannibal Corpse world. So I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it at that for now. So
keep us in suspense. February 2nd,
right.
press conference, right. Cannibal Corpse. All righty, cool. Lou, I guess next, and then Pete.
Sure. Much appreciated, guys. I'll keep this kind of quick anyway. First, hey, it's been a pleasure joining all you guys and getting to talk one of my biggest influences with a bunch of you guys who I sit around and listen to as well. So appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, with the Rush stuff, like you guys have all said, what hasn't already been said? I'll just mention a couple songs because, I mean, I could go on for that for way too long. But yeah, a couple of the ones that have always stuck out to me: Farewell to Kings, the Hemispheres, the Prelude always really grabbed me. And just to jump forward to some of the later stuff that really made an impression when they kind of rebounded, Driven, Double Agent, And even Headlong Flight off of Clockwork was like, all right, cool. They've kind of really went back to some crazy stuff there. You know, it's been a one hell of a ride growing up being influenced by those guys. And, you know, it's just it's a sad thing to have to talk about this on his anniversary, but you know, the legacy that him and the band have left behind is that, you know, something else, you know, we'll be talking about that forever. So, you know, that's one thing that's been a blessing.
Now, Lou, since you've had the tribute band going on, I know Randy Gregg from Almost Queen, and he had actually been in contact with Brian May. Have you ever talked to anyone from Rush, or have you ever met any of the guys? Are they aware of you doing the tribute band at all?
They're so, you know, as you know, those guys have always, you know, been the private group themselves, but they are aware of. There's the Rush Con, which was like kind of like the Star Trek convention of Rush people up in Toronto that they did. There was like 17 years in a row.
Same thing. A Star Trek convention and a Rush convention.
It is. It's the same thing. So they you know, they would have tribute bands for that. So we got selected to do that a couple of years. But we've done a few of that up there, and they would always have folks from the Rush camp there. One, the last year we played, I guess it was 2009, Michael Mossbach, you know, Neil's riding partner and security guy from Praetorian, was the guest. So he spent the day with us. Michael's also a little bit of a drummer himself, so it was pretty cool to catch up with him and chat drums. And the fun little story with that one was I didn't get to meet Neil that day, but when we were doing our show, speaking of Natural Science, that happens to be one of Michael's favorite songs. So, you guys are going to play Natural Science, right? So we played Natural Science. During the break after that, he runs up to me with his cell phone, and he and Neil had been texting each other like, oh, the guys are going to play Natural Science. So he apparently gave us the thumbs up, and we got a little texted thumbs up back from Neil that we did a good job on it, according to Michael. So that was always kind of a cool thing. And I said hello to Neil briefly at the first Buddy Rich Memorial concert.
Okay.
I just happened to be walking out as he was past the door, and was like, great show, thanks, and off we went. So.
Very
Steve,
nice.
I have a depressing. Here's a funny Paul O'Neill. What's not funny? It's a depressing TSO story. We would always have special guests on stage with us for TSO, and Paul wanted to have one of them come into Canada, go on stage with us in Canada for one tour. And he literally made the decision not to do it based on this story. He walked up to us in sound check, and the background singers were there, and they were a lot, you know, some of them have been with us for 10 years now, but it was like maybe their second or third tour with the band. And he goes, I'm trying to work out things to get a really cool special guest for the Toronto show. And he says it in front of the girl background singers, these really young girls, like, who? And he said, Geddy Lee. And they were like, who? And he never did it because those chicks had no idea who Geddy Lee was. I was like, what the fuck was that? We didn't get a chance to play with Geddy Lee on stage with TSO because the chick background singers had no idea who he was.
Oh, man.
That's probably my most depressing Rush story. I
wanted to make one more mention before we go to Pete and close up the show. I watched the Kiss pay-per-view. I know that Will did also. And Eric Singer had a little tribute to Neil on the drum kit, and I did hear something about the drum tech that's with Eric now did work with Rush before. Is that true, or is that something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Lauren Wheaton.
What are you talking about on the drum solo? Or the tribute to Neil? I didn't see anything about that.
No, the tribute to Neil was he had the Starman on the kit.
Oh, he did? I didn't even notice that.
And he had, I believe, 2112 on one of the drum heads or something.
Yep. Snare drum.
Yeah. Lou knows. Yeah. Okay. On the snare. Yeah. Oh. And then I guess he also had an Eric Carr logo on the drum kit also.
I saw the Eric Carr thing. Yeah. Totally.
Now you're going to go back and look on YouTube so you can see the thing, Will.
No. It was such a. I thought it was.
I enjoyed it. But
I enjoyed it too, but it was a really lukewarm performance, I thought, and I don't know. But Drink Death Angel beer. Hey!
I need a Death Angel beer too. Will's too far to drive over for the fire pit, but Pete Pardo, sorry to make you wait till the very end, but Pete, Pete has the Sea of Tranquility website and a YouTube channel, which is amazing, and we do a Hudson Valley Squares every Monday night, and it's a kind of a format similar to this. We get a bunch of guys on. We talk about music every week. People get in arguments. Hey, you know what? There hasn't been any swearing much on this show like yours, Pete. And I've got real rock and roll guys here. Pete, and you can let us know what you've got lined up on Sea of Tranquility and give us your final thoughts on the Rush.
Sounds good. Well, before I do anything, I think we're seeing all this great beer. I think we need to see a Tranquility beer one of these days.
There you go.
But since Paul was bringing up ticket stubs, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's my 1981 Rush ticket stub from the Moving Pictures tour. And sorry, Chris, but there's my Ozzy and Motorhead with Randy Rhoads.
Where was that? Where'd you see that?
Which one? The Ozzy?
The Rush.
Oh, it was at the Brendan Byrne Arena, the Meadowlands, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know where
the Garden show was the next year that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
So
was at the Civic Center.
So it's funny, my favorite bands of all time are Sabbath and Deep Purple. Those are just my two big two. But I've always been a huge Rush fan. And I was just thinking while we were talking today that the biggest poster that I had in my room when I was growing up. Did anybody remember that giant wall poster where like every shot of Geddy and Neil, they had the double necks, and how we all thought that was an amazing fucking poster that was ever created. I wish I still had it. But that was like the coolest thing ever. Yeah, I mean, just a great band that I've just loved from the beginning, and they're like the thinking man's rock band. I mean, just everything about them is just so classy and intelligent. Whether you're listening to Distant Early Warning or Subdivisions or By Tour or Bastille Day or Stick It Out, whatever era, it's all really good. And
I think I'm going bald.
Absolutely. And do you guys remember the first time you ever heard YYZ?
Oh yeah.
That's the most incredible thing ever. YYZ and La Villa Strangiato are two of the greatest instrumentals of all time. And just a lot of great music, a lot of great memories. And I think, we'll always be listening to Rush music, I think, especially folks from our era, right? I mean, they're just like part of our soul.
Right.
So, Neil, we love you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, and so you can visit me on Sea of Tranquility on YouTube, the website, which has been around 20 years this year, www.seaoftranquility.org. I also have a second YouTube channel called Comic Book Geezers for anybody who likes old comic books, Marvel and DC from like the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. And we got all sorts of cool stuff coming up tomorrow. If you got anybody like Accept, doing a ranking the album show of Accept tomorrow, and doing an Overkill show over the weekend. So all sorts of cool stuff coming up. And of course, Steve is a regular on the Hudson Valley Squares, along with a bunch of other folks from the Hudson Valley on Monday nights, every single Monday night. So,
and they call me, they think I'm Garth from Wayne's World on his show.
I love having Steve on the show because
you're not.
I got the black light posters. I got the beer. I don't have a pacer to drive around in, but
Steve is great to have on the show because he becomes the oldest guy. Other than I'm the oldest guy on the show, but when Steve came on the show, I no longer had that.
Oh, we need an older guy now. We got to get someone older than me. We got to get a classic rock veteran.
Even the two old users on the show, but
don't remind me.
Only as old as we think you are. But no, it's a great time every Monday night. We have all sorts of musical discussions and topics, and it's a lot of fun. And we usually have a special guest star, if not every week, every other week. So
Andrew Freeman was going to come on tonight with us, but he actually had something come up with his kid that he had to do, and he forgot. But
I reached out to him today, so I hope I hear back.
Yeah, he said he could. Oh yeah, he said he could do your Monday night.
Okay, I reached out to him, so I'll touch base.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. John, Incantation, Lou, Limelight, Chris Caffery from the TSO, Will Carroll from Death Angel, and Paul from the mighty Cannibal Corpse, and Matt Byrne from the mighty hatebreed. Everybody's mighty tonight. I'm like Don Cornelius, the mighty hatebreed.
Everybody's mighty, but TSO is Mary, you know?
Merry Christmas to you.
Exactly.
All right. Of course, if you like the video, please subscribe, hit like, comment your favorite Rush moments. And thanks for watching.